It's a nice day out. I left the window open. I'm also in the office right now. You can see. Da, 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 da. And I had to be careful to choose another angle right now because otherwise you guys are going to be staring at my pinups. I like vintage things. I like vintage travel posters. I like vintage pinups. But I don't know how YouTube is going to react to that if I leave that in the frame. So it's out of the frame. Instead, what you're looking at is my beautiful screensaver and my door right there. So I wanted to switch up the, the scenery a little bit instead of just me sitting on my butt in the next room for every video with my beautiful plants and all that. Yeah, there's another area of my house here that maybe you guys haven't really seen. But anyway, the window is open. It's a warm day, and there is a lot of traffic. I think I've mentioned this before in other videos. I live near a very big and popular park, especially on days like this and when the weekend approaches. A lot of people like to be out and about, and a lot of cars driving around and that kind of thing. So anyway, I'm doing this one in response to a viewer comment that I got yesterday, I believe, and it's from 𝗙់_Gregorian, I think, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Sue is concerned about something that a very famous Russian, now you say metaphysicist, I believe he's a quantum physicist, and I think his name is Vadim Zeland, if I'm not mistaken. I am familiar with him. He is very famous for a book or a series of work that he put together called Reality Transurfing. And I'm not going to talk a lot about that because it's a very dense book. It's being translated into many different languages right now. If you do want to check it out, it might be up on my recommended books on the website. But if it's not, I will put it there, so you can check it out for yourself. But your concern was, Sue's concern was that Vadim Zeland says that you do not, it's not possible to attract a specific person using the law of attraction or quantum shifting because the other person will have their own reality that they impose upon yours, and therefore you can't manifest them back. Now, I want to say a few things about that. And I think maybe you already know what I'm going to say. First of all, I completely disagree with that. This isn't about free will, because your comment is really, and I'm paraphrasing your comment right now, but that's it in a nutshell. In a nutshell, what you're talking about, which so many people have concerns with and bring up time and time again when we talk about this subject of manifesting specific people and X's into our lives, is this idea and this notion of free will. And the other person has their free will, and we can't impose our will upon their free will and all this kind of jazz. Well, let me just tell you something. First of all, you need to forget all about this whole idea of free will, okay? There is no objective reality. There is no one single objective reality. When we're talking about quantum shifting, what we're really getting into here is something that it's difficult for us to wrap our minds around. Frankly, I mean, it's sometimes hard for me to wrap my mind around it. It's something we're not used to. We're so locked into what we see as one singular, continuous version of reality, and locked into this idea that we've been taught since the time we were in the cradle, that there is an out there and an in here. There's us, and there's the world and other people, and there's this separation. And now we come along and we say there is no such thing as a separation. There is no such thing as true objectivity, Everything is completely subjective. And not only isn't there one solid reality, there are many parallel realities, infinite parallel realities. Nothing that you call reality is solid in any way. It's only your perception of it that makes it so. Right? And just as there are infinite parallel realities, there are also infinite versions of ourselves living in each of those infinite parallel realities. So try to wrap your mind around that. So what you're doing essentially is that when you're choosing a different reality, you do so through observation, consistent, continuous observation of that reality which you prefer, whether you can perceive it right now or not. that's where you go into when you create your scenes and you go into your visualizations and even your affirmations, and all these different techniques are really designed, are really there to serve you, to help you shift your thinking, your awareness, your observation into another reality. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about quantum shifting, right? And jumping parallel realities. Now, right now you might be thinking, I'm not with the person I want to be with, or they're with somebody else, or we're broken up, or maybe they're not even aware that I'm obsessed and in love with them. That's the reality that you're observing. And as you continue to observe that ad nauseum, that's the reality that's going to keep reflecting back to you. That's the one you kind of find yourself stuck in, right? And it's difficult for you to shift your thinking to something else that you can't really see yet. You can't really hear it or feel it or taste it or touch it or see it, right? So it's difficult for you to move beyond your 5 senses that you've been taught to perceive and interpret the world with. That's your ego mind that's capable of doing that. That's your conscious awareness. But we're talking about going into the subconscious right now, into that other layer of awareness. And there's a part of you that lives there and that has an awareness of that. It's just not right here in the front of your awareness right now, right? So imagine this. There is a reality right now out there existing currently where you are with your specific person. You are back with your ex. There's a reality where you never broke up with your ex to begin with, right? Now, how is it that you can't see that reality right now? Well, it's very simple. You get there gradually by enhancing your observation of that as being a reality, right? When you observe something, it solidifies, and everything that we see as solid, reality is nothing but frozen light, frozen awareness, right? We observe it over and over and over again, constantly, so that it slips sort of into the background. It becomes default, that it's there. The door is there, the computer is there, this is a room that I'm in, and the room doesn't change unless I change it, yada, 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 yada. You see what I'm saying? So it seems solid to us. It appears real to us, right? But we're so hyper aware of it that it actually does appear solid, but it really isn't that solid. It's very, very malleable. All of reality is malleable. And all the many different realities that exist, they're like film stills that are kind of spun together and moving rapidly before us, so to speak, right? Just like a movie would, a film strip would. When you speed it up to a certain speed, right? All these still images, each with different variation of the same scene, right? Or a movement or something like that, like my hand moving like this. And then you sort of illuminate that with light from behind. What you have is a projection of an apparent movement or of something that appears real, right? Or a solid sort of, a solid continuous image, moving image, right? Our reality functions the same way. It functions exactly the same way. So, having said that, you can become aware of a parallel reality that you can't quite see and feel and hear and touch right now, how do you do that, right? You do that through your observation of it. And you do that when you go into your meditations. You do that when you go into your visualizations. You do that every time you affirm, right? But really what it is that you have to feel it. Now, just as there's a version of your significant person, your specific person that isn't in love with you, that isn't currently in a relationship with you or seeking a relationship with you, because you're so hyper aware of that thing, and that version of them, that's the version that keeps popping up in your reality. There is another version of them. There's an infinite number of versions of them, just like there is an infinite number of versions of you. I hope this is making sense so far, because it is. When we really get into this stuff, it gets wild, let me tell you, right? It can get pretty overwhelming. But suffice it to say, and for the purposes of this video and for the purposes of what we're trying to achieve here on this channel and what you're trying to achieve, which is to shift yourself to a reality where you are closer to what you want, a reality that reflects better what you desire for your reality to be, right? You shift yourself into that. So there is a version of your specific person out there that has chosen you already. That's already with you. That's already your significant other, your husband or wife, whatever it may be, okay? That exists. because there isn't just one them, just like there isn't just one you. There are infinite thems. Think of it this way. Even within this reality and your awareness of them right now, okay, you have a specific version of them that is true for you. You see them a certain way, but other people in their lives see them a different way. Their parents are going to see them differently than you see them. Their schoolmates or co-workers are going to see them differently than you see them. Their boss, right? Their dog is going to see them differently than you see them. Their cat is going to see them differently than you see them. Strangers on the street that pass them are going to see them differently than you see them. So you already know how this works, because each of us are already different things to many different people, and then their reality, right? And their version of events and their version of us. Somebody could hate my guts and say I'm the biggest asshole they've ever met, while the person next to them could say, you're crazy, I love that guy, he's amazing. You see, two different versions of me that actually have nothing to do with me, that has everything to do with their perception of me, their observation of a certain element of me that then dominates in their reality. You see what I'm saying? And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about parallel reality shifting. I hope this is making sense so far. So, and I've said this in the past, and the most obvious kind of answer here is to say that you simply focus on them being the version that you prefer them to be towards you, right? And yes, that seems obvious. And that is a good method. That's a good way to begin to think about things. But it's not the most effective way to begin to think about things. Because really what you're trying to do is, and I'm going to keep repeating this, and it's very important, this is always about you. It's never about them. So what you want to do, and the reason I talk about self-love and working on yourself and self-acceptance and really making it about yourself and not them, is this. The most effective way to switch into a reality where that person is a version of themselves that you prefer is to make yourself the version that you are in that reality to them. Let me try to repeat that, okay? Because, and sometimes when I talk about this stuff, I even lose track myself, because it is so layered and so nuanced and can really become something different. It's difficult for your mind, your monkey mind, to kind of wrap around. All right, so what you want to be is to focus on who you are in that parallel reality in relation to them and the relationship that you have with them. So in other words, you don't want to go, I'm going to focus on who they are when they love me. You want to go, I'm going to focus on who I am when they love and choose me. Who's the person that I would be when they are in love with me, when they choose me, in the reality where they've chosen me, in the reality where they are my lover or my spouse, my partner? Who am I in that reality? How do I behave? How do I speak? How do I carry myself through the world? Right? How do I relate to other people? How do I see myself? What's my level of confidence like? How do I feel, most importantly? What is the feeling of that version of me that has what he wants? That's the angle you got to take this from. That's the angle you got to approach this from, not from them. And I believe that if Vladimir Zeland said anything of this kind, and I actually don't think that you have it right, but because I'm pretty sure that reality transurfing is pretty much akin to what we talk about when we talk about quantum shifting. So there would have to be many different versions of the person that you're interested in, that you're thinking of, right? So in that case, though, then there are many different versions of you in relation to them. So you want to plug not into the version of them that's in a relationship with you, but to the version of you that they choose to be in a relationship with. So part of that involves, of course, not worrying about them not being in a relationship with you, not worrying about them getting back together with you, not worrying about them contacting you or being with somebody else, because that's the version of you. That's how the version of you would think that you're currently observing, that's currently dominant in your reality, which is the version that is not with them, right? How does somebody think when they are aware of something they want not being in their life? They worry about it, they ask questions about it, they sit around and think about it and obsess about it all the time. right? They ask everyone, they can find out, how do I get this thing that I want? How do I get this thing that I want? How does this work? How does this work? How does this work? How does this work? Now, if you're the person who's the version of the person that has them in their life, choosing them, you wouldn't do any of those things. It's just like if I wanted to be rich, I don't sit around thinking about how poor I am, because then I'm perpetuating the version of myself that is poor. Do you see how this works? It all ties together. There is really no separation between these different sort of schools and philosophies, all right? It's easy to go, oh, well, this guy says this and this guy says that. I guarantee you all the different coaches and all the different schools of thought basically, in a nutshell, say the same thing. It all comes down to the same thing. It's about changing your perspective on the matter, okay? So as you focus on being the person, that version of yourself in that reality where they've chosen you, right? You then begin to shift your perception of yourself to be that person. And go back to the video that I said where, you know, if you see them, I can't remember what I titled it, but if you see them, you know, one of the best visualizations to do is to view yourself through their eyes as you want them to see you. And that's precisely the same thing we're talking about right now, that I'm talking about right now. Is you being that through their eyes, right? Does that make sense? When somebody chooses to be with you, that's the version of them that you perceive. That's the version of them that becomes solid in your reality, in other words. But you have to first be the person. You have to first become that person yourself. So in that sense, yes, you can't change them in that sense by trying to influence them, change their behavior, do all these things, stalk them, blow up their phone, beg for their attention or their forgiveness or their love, right? That never works, because that is you trying to influence their behavior. And you're doing it against a reflection of them that dominates in your thinking and your awareness, which is the version of them that doesn't choose to be with you. That's why you're begging and obsessing and trying to figure it all out all the time, right? You have to start with yourself. And in that sense, what it is you become the version that they choose in that reality that you prefer, where you have what you want. You become that person. You become that guy or gal or whatever, right? Now, I'm going to do a podcast episode about this. I'm going to dive deeper into this. And I don't know if it's going to be the next one. And I think the next one I'm going to be recording this weekend, or very shortly, very soon. It might be the one after that. But this is a topic that we're going to come back to again and again and again. All right? But suffice it to say, and through all the rambling I've done, and thank you, somebody said, we love your rambling recently. It's really difficult to kind of do all this in a 20-minute, 30-minute, 10-minute video, right? To really get down to the gist of how this all works. And especially when we're talking about something as seemingly complicated as quantum leaping and quantum shifting and reality transurfing. And there are many different schools of thoughts on that. There are many different ways to look at that, many different angles to look at that from. But for now, it's enough for you to understand fundamentally this. There are many different versions of you. There are many different versions of them. There are many different versions of your relationship to them. Many different relationships that you guys have, right? Now you have a preference in terms of the relationship you want to have with them. Now this is not about imagining them or changing their perception of you. It's about you changing your perception of yourself until you perceive yourself as the version that has them in their life. That's what you work on. That's why you put yourself into the visualization, into the scene. That's why you have to feel it real, like Neville says. Again, all these different teachers and different methods, they come down to the same thing fundamentally. So don't go looking too much for differences between them or going, oh, that guy said this and this guy said that and this woman said the other thing. In a nutshell, if you really dig deeper, it does come down to the same thing. They're all saying the same thing, really. They're just saying it differently. That's all it is. And of course, whichever one you pick up on and however you perceive the message to be is also a direct reflection of how you're looking at the situation, how you're looking at yourself, right? I mean, I want to say this. Why are you out there looking for information that contradicts what you want? When you leave a comment like that, it makes me think that that's what's going on. And I don't want to put you on the spot here, but basically, you've got to stop arguing with yourself. And that's what you're doing. You might go one day, oh, I believe this stuff, well, I want to believe it. And then you go, well, is it real? Well, let me go do some research and find out who disagrees with it, or who or whatever. And therefore, of course, now you get conflicting information because you've got conflicting energy and vibration going on. This is where the faith part comes in. This is where the belief part comes in. You have to begin to believe and really work on your faith in this regard. Because if you're bouncing all over the place like this, then that's what you're going to get back. You're going to get this one day, this the other day. You're going to get this 1 minute, and 5 minutes later it's this. And you're wondering what's going on. It doesn't work. It is working. It's working perfectly. It's responding exactly to what you're putting out. Some famous comedian once said this, you know, life is like a sewer. What you get out of it depends on what you put into it. It's pretty funny, but it's also true, right? It is true. So you got to stop arguing with yourself. You got to stop looking for contradictory information. You have to decide now what it is you want. How badly do you want it? Do you want it badly enough that you've decided you're going to go there in your mind? You're going to do this thing, and everything else be damned. I'm not going to look for an argument against this and an argument against that. And sometimes what comes up too is if you keep looking for proof in all these different places. In other words, you might see something that convinces you that what you want is possible, but then you go back to not believing it, so then you go looking for more proof from different sources, and now what you're getting back is evidence and people saying that it's not possible. And you go, what the hell's going on? These people are contradicting themselves. They're not contradicting each other. You're contradicting yourself from 1 minute to the next. And in doing that, here you go. This is how this works. In doing that, you're actually shifting back and forth between different versions of yourself. You can be doing it from second to second, or minute to minute, or many hundreds of times within the course of a day. Now I'm a person who's inspired. Now I'm a person who doubts. Now I'm the person who believes. Now I'm the person who doesn't. So you see what I'm saying? You have to decide the version that you want to be. What do you want to be? Do you want to be the guy that believes and has faith? Then that's what you need to choose to be. And that's how you need to start to behave and think and feel. All right? So that you consistently become that version. And as you more consistently do so, you more consistently become that version. That starts to solidify. That's who you become, right? And just like with your relationship with your significant other, your specific person, don't focus on who you need them to be. Focus on who you need to be in order for them to choose you. There is a reality where they've chosen you. Who is that version of you in that reality? That's the version you want to become. Let's take an example. Who would that version be? Someone who's confident, right? Someone who has faith in themselves, faith in the process. Someone who's enjoying a happy, loving, trusting relationship with this person. How does somebody like that feel and act and think and speak and relate to others and relate to themselves and relate to the world around them? You have to become that person. That's what you focus on. All right? That's why you do your visualizing. That's why you write your scenes. That's why you write your stories. That's, you want to become that version of yourself that they choose to be with. I said it again. I can keep saying it until it sinks in. All right? So, that in a nutshell is how this works from a quantum perspective. All right? And I hope that was clear enough. And again, I was rambling. I sometimes do that. I hope the traffic noise out there wasn't too loud and that you can hear me well enough. And having said all that, I will be covering that in the future videos. I'll talk about a lot more about this stuff because it's going to come up again and again and again. And it's something that I'm also very much on board with, this idea of creating reality. Really not so much creating reality or attracting reality. Now, we talk about law of attraction a lot. But what we're really dealing with is, of course, the idea of law of attraction sometimes confounds people or frustrates people because it still seems to indicate that there's an out there that we must attract to us, right? And really, there isn't. There's no out there. Everything originates from here, from inside of you, okay? All right. So, on that note, thank you for the comment, by the way, and for the question. It's very important we cover this stuff. And on that note, I'm going to try to put that book up on the website, on the recommended books list. If it's not already up there, I should check. Also, if you want some coaching with me, email coaching, you go to the website. The link is down below, and you can get your coaching there, okay? Also, if you like the channel and the content, please subscribe, and please consider leaving me a tip. There are 2 links down below, one for Cash App, one for PayPal, and any amount is appreciated. And